preparing for this blessed opportunity that I occasionally get, I meditate, I listen to Spirit, I try to throw in a few words of my own here and there. Sometimes they let me, and sometimes they say, just stick with the script. Don't deviate, don't improvise, focus on getting the words across. So I did prepare a talk, and you know, I did read through it, and I said, this is pretty good. I actually did this talk a couple years ago, and I keep all my talks because occasionally it comes back around. I have them categorized under different titles, and I say, well, let's see, you know, we haven't had this for a while, we need to re-emphasize this, this is important. And then I just go in and proofread it, and I change things that are appropriate to the particular time I'm giving the talk. And I kind of go with that, and it generally works out. So I did that. I prepared this talk 3 days ago, and I said, okay, this is what I'm talking about. Well, as usual, like they say, the best laid plans, you know, of mice and men, etc. Spirit said, no, we're not talking about that. This is good, but refile that. So I listen. I've been actually, well, a lot of times, you know, your own behavior, you question your own behavior. But if you really analyze it, after you observe yourself, you step out of, you know, your box and say, wonder why I said that, wonder why I did that. Well, I'd say the past 2 weeks, I have been going through my own home, every room in the house. And I know we all need to declutter. We all have so much. You know, we're so blessed. We accumulate. We have dust because we accumulate, which of course isn't good for anybody, you know, to have all that dust. And I have a cleaning business, and believe me, everybody has dust. I've seen it. You all. Yeah, I have it too. So that's why I said, I come home and I say, oh, I really should dust that over there. So I do. I get the dusters out and the microfiber cloths, and I dust my own house. I get Alana to help me. She's 8. She's a big girl now. She can help. So we dust. And I say, you know, I really just need to get rid of some of these things. I mean some of them. I don't mean your sentimental gifts or cherished, you know, things that you have wonderful memories of or someone special gave to you. Nobody, you know, the decluttering police aren't going to knock on the door and say, okay, we need a box from you. Bring us a box of your junk, you know. So they should, though. That's a good idea. So I do. I go around from time to time, and I do a lot with the homeless and people that are resettling. So I do say, well, okay, I don't need 5 sets of china, you know. I don't need 4 sets of pots and pans. I don't need 4 sets of silverware. You know, oh my God, you know, you just accumulate so much. So I have been going through my house the past 2 weeks, just decluttering. I've made this huge pile in my garage that my husband's been like gritting his teeth not to dare say anything to me about this huge pile in his garage. He thinks it's his garage, you know, but I just keep dragging everything out to the garage because frequently I do go to the women's shelter. There are several organizations that I bring whatever's given to me from the church, and okay, this goes to the women's shelter, this goes to the Food Under the Bridge ministry, this goes here, this goes to the backpack program. So I've been dragging these piles for weeks out into the garage, and every time he starts to say something to me, very cautiously of course, I say, I know, it's all going, it's all going. So I've been doing this for weeks, and I said, yesterday I just stepped out of myself and looked, and I said, why am I doing this? Like, almost like frantically. It's like I can't even sit down for 5 minutes in my house. I think, oh, I should go up to Alana's closet and go through her closet, because she's had a growth spurt, and so many of her shoes and clothes don't fit her anymore. So I do. I go up the stairs and I come downstairs with 2 or 3 bags or boxes or whatever out into the garage, I've done my own closet. I've done my linen closet, my pantry. I don't know. I didn't understand myself. So finally, I sat down for 5 minutes yesterday and said, okay, let me make sure I have everything prepared for my talk Sunday. And I said, but I don't understand why I'm doing this. This has been going on for weeks. And Spirit said to me, this is what you're going to talk about under the category we refer to as purging. They say you are purging in more ways than one. Not just materially, physically, but emotionally, psychologically as well. They told me spring, it is spring, and we all need to purge. We all need to get rid, clean out closets, attics, basements, whatever it is, storage sheds. It's an emotional release, as well as just the actual physical release of all the things that we accumulate and hold on to that we really have no need for. And what they were explaining to me was the process also entails almost like the Greek catharsis. It's cleansing us as well. We're throwing things out, clearing things away. And it's making us have a more open vision, a more open focus on where we're supposed to be going with this, where we're heading with this. We don't need all these things, like I said, and these things are at times actually holding you back. They're holding you back from proceeding forward on your new path, because as we know, our path goes and twists and turns and detours and breaks off, and you're going further to that exit and I'm turning off on this one. We all have our own path. But so much of it can be bogged down with clutter. And I'm talking now emotional, psychological clutter, the things we're holding on to that we really don't need anymore, and Spirit wants us to purge. They want us to clean the house, open the windows, air the place out, so to speak. And I mean, literally that's great too, but I'm talking figuratively with your own self, your own clutter, your own baggage, things and people we're holding on to that are possibly having a negative or detrimental impact on our life that we need to let go of. We need to distance ourselves from these things. So we need to release out into the ether and bless it on its way, but send it on its way, because we no longer need that. And it's going to stop us from becoming what we can become, what we can grow from with this. So I was talking to Reverend Jeannie earlier. I watched a film last night, and I was raised Catholic. I was Catholic for 50 years of my life, very devout Catholic. And I watched a film on St. Joan of Arc last night. Now, I think everybody kind of knows the basic story of St. Joan. She was a fierce warrior, went into battles in armor, the whole bit, but we all know ultimately they burned her at the stake as a heretic. But to see the whole background information on her, it made me realize, okay, I know I'm not saying Joan, I'm not trying to say that, but she saw things, she heard, they said, oh, your voices, you hear voices, what do you see, how do they speak to you, what do they tell you, and it was almost like they feared her, just like, for example, spiritualists or mediums, or anybody that's different from the normal status quo kind of society where everybody fits into this little mold. Well, I don't want to say, I'm just teasing, but it always reminded me of the little Christmas story. Remember the island of misfit toys? Well, that was Rudolph, where they kind of banished Rudolph to the island of misfit toys. Well, sometimes I feel like we're the island of misfit toys because we're there and we walk among you, but people don't always notice or know. They don't get into detailed conversations with us about our religious beliefs. Most people, they tend to assume everybody, oh, you either go to a Baptist church or a Methodist church or this or that. So when it does come around to the, what church do you go to? I get that a lot because I live in Titusville, which is primarily Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, one Catholic church, but there's a church almost like every other block in Titusville, but there's no spiritualist churches. So when people see me leaving on Sunday morning and they, oh, you're going to church? Where do you go to church? I say, in Orlando. Well, where? Well, we got churches here. And I said, not like my church. It's the only one for miles. Well, where do you go to church? I go to a spiritualist church. And then the conversation just stops because they don't know what to make of that. They just have no clue. They don't know if, I have pentagrams in my living room, there's demons in the backyard, they look at my statues like, what is that she's worshiping? So I've had neighbors tell me, well, we knew you were different, but we didn't know what you were, because I had the landscaping people come in the backyard, and yes, I do have, some Greek statues. I have a Blessed Virgin statue that I've been carrying around for 20 years from New Mexico. I have things. And they say, well, everybody's entitled. That's right. And that's my bottom line here. This is America, and we are all blessed to be here, first of all, to be living here. But we're all blessed to be able to worship anyone or anything in the privacy of our home or even in a public place like this where we can get together and people of like minds. So the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is, Spirit told me this is the time, this is spring, this is the reawakening of the earth, and it's your reawakening too. So sit down and think in your own mind, how do I need to declutter my life? Who do I need to declutter from? Or what situation do I need to push away or remove myself from? This brings up another issue as well. I have talked before on the series subject of letting go. It's hard enough to let go of things, like I just spoke of. But boy, is it ever hard to let go of loved ones we have lost. I'm not saying they don't pop in and we don't communicate with them and they don't check on us frequently, etc., etc. But they have moved on. And they want us to know that it's okay for us to move on too. We don't need to carry them in our back pocket around with us the rest of our days. They want us to clean house and grow and proceed on our own path. When I was researching all of this as well, I started looking at things, on purging. And I don't mean, like when you're going for a colonoscopy and that kind of purging. And I also, but that's very good for you at the same time, because it's releasing, it's cleansing. But also the film series, The Purge, which even my 8-year-old granddaughter, knows about, where for one day or night of the year, you can do anything you want legally. You can rob, kill, murder. Have you seen the films, The Purge, etc.? Very bizarre concept. But then when the sun rises the next morning, it all ceases. You go back to your normal, hi neighbor, everything. Even though I tried to kill you last night, it's okay, we're neighbors, But that's not the purge. So when I was researching the purge, I came across this other subject. I said, I wonder what people really think about spiritualism. And I said, well, I'm going to Google it and see what I come up with, and see how you feel about it. What is spiritualism? In the last few decades, there has been an increasing fascination with communing with the dead. Oh yeah. The hit television shows Ghost Hunters, Beyond, Crossing Over, Long Island Medium provide examples. Through the stories told by the participants on these and other shows, the world is regaled with tales of contact with the spiritual world. Some heartwarming, but some are horrific. Those who participate in these kinds of practices do not always understand or fully appreciate the considerable spiritual risks they are taking. Spiritualism is a pseudo-religious system of shared concepts in which a key feature is the belief that a soul survives after the death of the physical body, and these disembodied spirits are both willing and able to communicate with living persons. Like Christians, spiritualists believe in a single God, whom they refer to as infinite intelligence, and that God holds each soul accountable for his actions and life choices. Unlike Christians, however, spiritualists do not believe that death marks the final point of judgment for a spirit, but souls have the capacity to learn, grow, and evolve after death to progressively higher planes of knowledge and perfection. They do not believe that Jesus' death paid the penalty for sin, and that salvation comes by grace through faith in Christ, but rather souls gradually progress after death through a series of steps toward a state of spiritual perfection. It is therefore a works-based route to salvation after death. It goes on, and it mentions some of our spiritual pioneers, that we've all heard before here in the church, Beverly, Randolph, Cora Scott, etc., Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, it goes on, which, was pretty factual as we know it and understand it. But then, I got to this other section of this same article. It says, although many spiritualists attend Sunday services, sing hymns, and worship a single God, spiritualism and Christianity are not compatible belief systems. In addition to their belief in an evolutionary movement of souls through progressively higher celestial planes, spiritualists seek their truth from contact with spirits through seances, Ouija boards, and mediums. Many spiritualists maintain that they have their own personal spirit guides Ooh, how dare they? From whom they receive all kinds of information and direction for their lives. For spiritualists, the Bible is not the primary source of truth and knowledge about the afterlife and God. It is highly likely that many contacts with the dead through spiritualism are simply faked. Well, you know, that's of course quite possibly true, but that's another story. Other so-called encounters with departed loved ones through the use of Ouija boards, mediums, and seances are actually encounters with demons who intentionally deliver false information. Please don't do that. One common lie that many people receive through supernatural contact is that there is no hell and no final judgment by God. And it goes on to reference several Bible verses. Those who dabble in spiritualism engage in activities that seem innocuous but actually open the door for demonic contact, harassment, and even possession. Many followers of spiritualism have been traumatized. I'm sorry, I can't even read this without laughing, I'm sorry. And harmed psychologically, if not physically, by contacts with demons that began with seances, Ouija boards, psychic consultations, Reiki healing, and encounters with mediums. For all those who seek the truth, Jesus unequivocally states in John 14:16, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Well, there you have it, okay? So here we are, back in St. Joan of Arc's time, back through the Salem witch trials, all of these things that we thought we had put behind us. Free to be, you and me. This is America, okay? I can go on the internet or Facebook or YouTube or whatever and blast my opinion too, you know? That's part of our right as American citizens. But this is just another aspect of, like I was saying, the fear of the unknown. I can't even remember the last time I've seen a Ouija board, probably like middle school or something, I don't know. I know honestly they stopped making them several years because parents feared that children were opening the door to the supernatural and demons, etc., etc. Fear, fear. This is another example also of what Spirit was talking to me about us, things we need to do. We need to purge ourselves from this false type information or misrepresentation of spiritualism. Spiritualism, as we know it, is a beautiful, beautiful, blessed religion. We gain so much through the knowledge that we learn every day as a spiritualism, whether by taking classes or investigating information yourself, learning new things like Reiki massage. I'm not advocating Ouija boards, just like anything else, you know. It is what you make of it. But also know that by purging ourselves of this type of false information, we're free to show people what we truly are as spiritualists, besides being blessed and loving and open-minded. We have the ability and the knowledge that our life does go on from here, and that's a blessing because so many people struggle through life and they don't have what we have. So it's not that I'm saying that we're better than them, but perhaps we have a better understanding of the life that does go on when we leave this earth plane. Because it does go on. We've all been witness to that by the many blessings and visits from Spirit. So when you go home, I would suggest that you sit down and think about what Spirit is trying to get their point to us about today by purging, not just the closets or the attic, but by what baggage you're holding on to and keeping that's definitely not good for you anymore. It's time to open the doors and air out the place. So thank you for listening to my words and Spirit's take on this as well. And I'll leave that information with you. So at this time, it's